I got sucked into doing a demo for AI driving for dollars.
So he's like a typical author, right? Where he hasn't actually done anything. And so he went and wrote a book because he talked to his mentors who told him how to do it. And he goes, well, that sounds hard. I'm just going to write a book where I repeat what my mentor said and then pretend like I'm the genius.
Oh, is he Boys with Dan Sullivan?
Yes. He was like the co-author on 2 of the big ones.
He's
Gap in the Gain and 10x is easier than 2x.
And every Go bro was like, dude, you're in the gap right now, dude. Like, fuck you, bro. My dad just died. Fucking business sucks ass. Give me a freaking break.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Collecting Keys. I'll be honest, I kind of like those little intros where we banter before the song comes on. I feel like it adds tempo.
I didn't even know we were recording.
It could be dangerous one of these times.
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous.
Well, the good thing is our producers know that when Dan really goes off the rails, he cuts those ones out. We did have one not too long ago where our producer hit me up and was like, you guys were like extra raunchy this episode. Do you want me to cut some of that out? And I was like, yeah. I was like, if you're saying something, we probably should.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah. Why don't you just delete that one?
Yeah, right. But what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Collecting Keys Podcast. I'm Mike DeHaan here with my co-hosts Dan Austin and Dylan Cook. And since, it's a real estate show, but since that isn't really all that sexy right now, we're going to make this a show about buying businesses or what's like the other, like hospitality. That's because it's real estate.
Ooh, this is going to be fiery today. Huh?
What's the other stuff we can like pretend we know about to sell schmucks who work for Google and make $300,000 a year and want to like pretend that they know how to own a plumbing company.
I haven't seen any drop shipping things in a while. That used to be big.
Ooh, man.
With the tariffs, that's never coming back, dude. That's gone forever. Because when you're upcharging people on some bullshit from AliExpress, the tariffs are going to eat all of your profit margins on that pretty quickly.
You know what my favorite thing is, though, is like you just find a business that has a fax machine and then you just, upgrade them to email. And now you've 3x their business. That's kind of the promise.
That's the secret.
Well, what's funny is you're making a joke about that. That is literally what AI people are doing right now is they're saying, I have this AI bot, this GPT that can do XYZ. It's like an agent, it's a talking person, whatever they're doing.
I have an agentic AI.
Yeah. And it's all these people that figured out how to get the same scripts from somewhere to create a GPT. And now they're trying to sell it to a larger company for $5,000 purely off the assumption that they don't know how to do it themselves. Very similar to upgrading from a fax machine to email. Like that is the current phase of that. And the reason I know it's a scam is because the dregs of society, like the people that are at I would say like the hustlers that don't actually make any money. They're like the people that are always like talking deals and, you meet them in person. They're kind of like twitchy because they're obviously trying to sell you something. They're all about that AI train right now, dude, because that is their current gold mine.
Before this is somewhat of a good segue. I met with a really popular local syndicator who actually knows their shit. They're not one of these like fluff people and they don't really have an online presence, which is probably a counter indicator.
Yeah.
He's like, we were just talking. He's been backstage with like Ken McElroy, Brandon Turner, really the biggest names, and Ryan Pineda, all the biggest things like the Limitless Expo, all this stuff. And he basically said, God fucking damn it, I can't stand 90% of these people backstage.
Oh, they're the worst, dude. I can only imagine.
Yeah, and he's like, they're so much different of a person than they are on the stage versus in the back, right? Like they don't have time for you. They think they're God's gift. Like it's just solidifying everything that we talk shit about.
Absolutely. I was at a local meetup here. It was North Idaho little real estate expo last year. And I was asked to come and speak on it about marketing for deals, right? And so basically there's a handful of speakers. There's me, Sarah Weaver, who does like the, midterm rentals thing was one of the speakers. AJ Osborne was one of the speakers, right? And so we're all kind of like just hanging out, waiting for her to speak, whatever. Everyone was cool except for AJ Osborne, who would not talk to anybody.
Too cool for school.
I was like, bro, you're in Coeur d'Alene at this event that there's like maybe 150 people here and you're acting like you're
big dog. I
don't know, on like some big stage somewhere. I'm like, shut, like we're in a Ramada Inn. What are you talking about? Like I literally had to walk. I parked in the hotel parking lot and went past like the shitty restaurant that for some reason had people eating there, right? To go to the conference room at the back of this hotel. I'm like, why are you on a pedestal? I'm just like trying to like make conversation because we have nothing else to do for the next hour while all the attendees eat their Subway lunch. Like, what are we doing here? And he was a prick. And then he gets up on stage and he's like, let me tell you about how I got like syphilis and was in a wheelchair or some bullshit. I'm like, I don't.
Gillian Barr. Yeah.
Nobody cares about that.
And how I'm getting my investors a 4% return on their money in our new self-storage syndication.
And how I brought in Investor Girl Britt because she's hot.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, she will raise capital for me.
Dude, man, her highest ROI on her money is between her hips and her shoulders right now, dude. I bet she makes so much money because of those things.
Hey, good for her. I'm not going to complain.
The craziest thing to me is there's like those people, because like she actually was very talented, like with her content that she was doing back when she was
like a front runner for sure.
Like working on the houses, and she had like the stuff, like my wife like loved to follow and all those sort of things. And then as soon as that starts to dry up, right, or there's like the bigger money opportunity, it's like selling my body. I'm like, why do you got to do that? Why you got to do that?
Well, you accidentally post one bathing suit video and you're like, that got way more views. And then all of a sudden you just make that your thing, which is totally fine with me.
The thing is they all do.
I know, but that's fine.
Because Cody Sanchez has done the same shit.
What would you do, right? Like, come on, man. It's just do it.
You know what? You're right, Dan. I'm speaking from a position of envy that people do not fawn over the male body like they do the female one.
But you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't hate them for it. Like if you hated them for it, that seems like it'd be sexist. It's just their tool they have to use to get over all this male ego and misogyny.
I think the crux of this is it just goes away from the business stuff, right? And it's just selling the hopium. Like that's all it is.
Yeah,
it does.
And that's the problem, right? Is like, and what you said, Dan, there is they have to do it. And that's so unfortunate, honestly. Like it shouldn't be that way.
Well, how about this? They don't have to do it. That's just what everybody wants. Sure. And it's called capitalism, and it's an open market and supply and demand. It's really what it comes down to.
Or you can be, what's his name? Andy Elliott, and put his kids on stage who are like fucking 12.
Now, you definitely don't have to do that. And there is definitely no market for that. Like that is just being an idiot.
It is for sure. But I don't know, man. And then, so one of the things we want to talk about on this show today, which is, I think is a really interesting topic, Dylan. So at the beginning of the show, the guy that Dan was talking trash on, is an author.
Inadvertently.
Actually, his books I've heard are decent, but I don't know. I don't read books. I'm not a nerd. I got other stuff to do. But so Ben Hardy, he has this science of scaling. I'm guessing that's his new book that's coming out.
That's his new book, correct.
And so give his breakdown. He was on the Better Life podcast with
Brandon Turner and Cam, who we've had on the podcast, I think twice now at this point.
Yeah, 2-3 times. Yeah. And his whole conversation was...
So they started just breaking down the book, and once they basically got to the Q&A, Cam was asking questions and revolving around basically what our business is, which is wholesaling and flipping, with the caveat that Cam is definitely more flip heavy than I think most of us are.
Yes.
And I guess the crux of it is he was saying, I've sat down and thought about it, and there's no way to 10x or even let alone 100x this business.
So Cam said this, or Ben Hardy said
Cam
this?
said that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Ben Hardy was basically like, hey, sometimes the current business model is not scalable. And then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what is.
Okay. So I have two pieces to this. First off, I really wish... Did you have to leave early on the show with Cam because we held you for so long?
Oh,
yes. Yeah, I did.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you missed like the gold that was like the hour-long conversation that Dan and I had with him afterwards, where we basically just went through all of his business, like all of his numbers and stuff. And we're like, you're kind of like doing a lot of stuff, like not how we would recommend that you do it. His cost per deal was super high.
Super high.
They were closing on everything, right? Like they had like all these different ways that they were approaching the business that just didn't fundamentally make sense. And so he's coming through a lens where, correct, with how he is running his business is absolutely not scalable. He's still making money. He's still good at what he does. He's just doing it.
He shared on the podcast. I mean, they'll do about 1.5 million in profit with but that's like a 6 million top line.
Totally.
So think about those spreads, right?
Yeah. Right. And so it's a 25% profit margin. And when you're a small business, that's the issue is with $6 million, that seems like a lot to the average person, because it is. When you're looking at like business itself that has overhead, it's really not that much money.
Yeah. It takes a lot to get there.
Especially flipping too, because like you're going to get taxed out the wazoo for that.
And also, I'm assuming Cam wouldn't do this, but when he's saying I'm doing 6 million top line, is he taking into account the top line value of his houses before he sells them?
I would assume that's just net revenue. Like
I would hope so.
I would fucking hope so too.
If he's doing the realtor thing where he's like, I sold, $2 million in volume. It's like, that means
I don't think he's like that. I don't know.
I hope not. But I don't know.
That would be like 20 houses. Like,
yeah, but he's also on, Better Life podcast with Brandon Turner, who's, always talking about his big numbers and everything else. And then Ben Hardy, who's on there trying to posture for his new book.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't put any fault on Cam for doing podcast or influencer math on that. 100% to try and sound better.
Well, I mean, everybody's got to do a little bit, right?
Totally.
I guess if you take what we do and I think about my business and 10xing that, I mean, it's a linear thing, right? He wants to think of like how you have exponential growth. And ours is just, there's more marketing and there's more people. I really don't know how else to do it outside of that. And I guess Ben Hardy would say, scratch the whole model. What if you, instead of doing 50 deals at 20,000 a pop, you did 10 deals at 100,000 a pop, because now you're going after apartments or commercials or mobile homes. Like,
Did Ben Hardy actually say that?
no, but Cam and them were and Brandon were kind of going back and forth with us. Brandon's idea was like, partner with the biggest 50 flippers in the nation and just raise the money for it. I was like, that didn't make any sense. So I'm trying to, without bashing them too hard, the whole entire premise was your current business model might not scale. If you really want to go 10 to 100 million, what's like the ground floor level of like, what do you actually have to think about? It just changes the questions in the frame that you have to ask yourself.
Well, so going from 0 to 10 million and heading to 100 million is very different.
I would agree.
Right? Like that is a completely different sort of model and conversation.
Totally different conversation.
But Dana, you and I have talked about this recently because we tried to really scale our wholesale business, doing this national thing with like the partnership program and the franchise that we were pursuing, right? And we discovered that it's possible. It's just not really worth the time.
Yeah, the juice isn't worth the squeeze at some point in time.
I mean, if you guys are willing to share, wasn't your net profit going to be the same at like 50 franchise locations versus your team of 5 or 6?
Exactly. And so that was one of my big takeaways from going down to acquisition.com conferences was when I first started going to those, the intention was going to figure out how to grow our franchise with our backyard home buyers model, right? But at the same time, we were simultaneously running both our nationwide sort of like partnership program, which is literally what Brandon recommended doing, right?
Yeah.
And then also running a local wholesale business. And so I had numbers on what the profitability of those were. And then we had projections off of the franchise that we hadn't launched yet. And so what they basically did, one of Alex Ramos's analysts, he was like, okay, cool. So if we forecast this, if you get to, it was like 200 franchisees, that's going to be like the same profitability as if you did what you're doing in Spokane in like 2 markets. And so they're like, would you rather have 200 franchisees or figure out how to really scale and grow Spokane and stabilize that and then add on another market? And so that was like kind of like the growth trajectory we're looking at. But then the other issue was because there's the economy of scale with the franchise, basically to equal Spokane, it was like 120 franchises, right? So it wasn't like it was like 50%. It was still like such a significant number. And it was like, why would we do that? And he was like, there's no right or wrong answer. You can be the franchise guy or you can be the real estate guy. He's like, just know that they're different models. And if you go and you franchise and you're going to have to manage 100 franchisees, and that's the big thing too, is they were like, if you go that route, realize you still owe those franchisees. You have 100 different opportunities for their business to turn into a mess. And you have to come and clean it up anyway, but they're still getting like 90% of the profit, And I was like, yeah, that sucks. But then like doing it with our own partnership program that we we're running kind of all of them, nurturing the relationships is extremely difficult. Keeping up with the differences in state laws, now things change, was super, super hard. Knowing the nuances of all the markets. Like I really think that if you were going to do that, it's absolutely possible to scale a company like this to 10 million plus. I would just say in a singular location, it's going to be tricky unless you're in a huge metro, like Dallas. Like I think Billy and Tara have been on the show, have probably pushed that $10 million number. But that's also from a singular office is going to be tough. You're going to need to be in several different areas. You're going to have a lot of local expertise. And I don't think that your profit margin will scale very well with your revenue for it to make sense versus other models.
Goes down. The other thing to talk about too is like, why would you want to build a $10 million company that's probably not sellable? Like who's going to buy it?
Absolutely. Totally.
So like in my mind, if you're doing that, you're investing your time is the equity of the business. The cash flow is what's paying you yearly. And you hope off of 10 million that you're making $1 million at least.
Right?
Yeah. You know what I mean? But like your time in building that business, when it's done, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to just shut it down?
Yeah.
And be probably on a wholesaling business, wholesaling flipping business. Nobody's buying or selling those.
They don't trade on any kind of multiple if they trade at all.
No. Yeah. And it's usually because there's a key and there's definitely key man risk. Like with like Bill and Tara's business, for example, like if they're not there, I really don't think their business does anywhere near what they do. Same with Cam. I think what Cam found with his business, in which we didn't talk about, was I think the fact that he's gotten to where he has before he started scaling is an incredible, it's just so incredible. It shows he is like a key player in that. Because all of his deals were network deals that he was doing beforehand. He called them network deals, which is basically just going to meetups and telling other wholesalers to bring him deals, and he would take them on and flip them or wholesale them. And so it's like he's like a key man in that business as he steps out and tries to automate it and make it more passive. So why he's in Maui. Like he's finding it's way more challenging, and it's because it's like key man thing.
Yeah. I mean, that exists in every business, right? Like I can't remember where I heard it. I've repeated this a lot of times over the years, but when you bring on team members, you're basically trading 80% efficiency for 80% of your time back. So you still have to manage that person, but you're always going to see a reduction in efficiency from them.
But the systematization of this business is you can get it to a certain point, but it's hard to do it to where you can get a person that's 80% efficient and have an SOP, because you don't have an SOP for a seller that comes to the closing table with a gun and says, fuck you, I'm not closing.
Totally. And I think that's such a key point, Dan.
That takes the special key man like a Cam Cather or a Dylan or whoever's running the business, because they have a lot of passion and desire to make that go well. And they are doing that successfully because they're adaptable and can overcome those situations.
I think that's just an overall theme in the real estate business, though. Like, we're not a SaaS company, software as a service. We're not a widget company, right? I just think when you're dealing with real estate, all the different nuances that go with that, with every part of the transaction, and the emotional thing when sellers, it's their largest financial, thing that they'll probably ever spend on or sell on. Like, all of those build up to something that's going to be complex. And when you try to scale complex systems, it very rarely goes well.
100%.
Hey guys, quick little ask for you if you don't mind. We would love to continue growing this show, and being a small podcaster right now is honestly really hard. Pretty much everybody that I know that has a small show has been seeing a downward trend in listenership and downloads for like the last year and a half. So if you support what me, Dan, and Dylan do with this show, if you could please go and share it on your Instagram, tell your friends, share it on Facebook, wherever you hang out in your social media, just go and spread the word about what we do and the value that we bring to you and your business. And that will continue to help us grow and expand our listenership within your circles. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. And thanks, guys. We'll get back to the show. Well, not only is it complex systems, right? This has been one of my biggest pushbacks on anyone that's claimed to have some system or process or whatever to make streamline wholesale real estate. Is it say this a lot with people that have these chatbots and stuff right now. What they always fail to take into account is that our acquisitions, right, our procurement of product is dealing with it's fundamentally the dregs of society. Right? They are people that have financial issues. They have emotional issues. They are sporadic in how they approach you and what exactly they're expecting. And you can't processize irrationality, right? At all. It's not possible.
Not logical.
If you're selling widgets to people, or if you're a B2B business, you can processize a lot of that because the people that you're working with are fundamentally, with it.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, but their individual situations are also equally as complex, because with the crazy seller also comes their crazy family, also comes the year's worth of extremely complex financial and legal baggage they're bringing with them. And having somebody that's an employee that's going to be able to work through that to make their, 10% commission that you're going to make them, their $2,000, hell no.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that. They're never going to be willing to do that quite as much as you are.
Especially when the sellers, I run into this a lot right now, they don't have anywhere else to go.
Dude, that's the biggest problem. We were literally dealing with that this morning.
Yeah. You have to try to solve their problem, but then they need the money from the sale to afford somewhere else to go. So now you're holding the money back in escrow. It's always, everything is a mess. And that's why we get paid to solve problems. There's two sides to that token. But
yeah, I think something that gets pretty dicey is what you're starting to see now is people that don't have adequate lead flow to keep up with their growth plans. They're now going, and I know you've been doing this, but I will say your market's pretty sweet, honestly. Having seen your market now from a lender perspective, I'm God damn, I should have gone to Cincinnati.
Stop sending you guys my loans.
Yeah,
exactly.
What a lot of people start doing is they say, well, I'm not getting enough from my wholesale. I'm not getting, enough revenue. I need to I'm not getting deals. I'm going to start flipping houses. So then if you're going that route and you are now scaling it, the issue is you are now living off of accounts receivable, right? And that accounts receivable isn't just accounts receivable. It's accounts receivable that is also levered because you have debt to get to that accounts receivable. And so it's constantly diminishing. And that's how people lose their ass, is because they're saying, well, I have X amount of revenue I'm making per month. This is my projected revenue. If everything closes on time, I should be able to pay my bills. I'm going to go and get more debt to be able to do more of that. And so you kind of have this tug of war that constantly happens that can get out of hand very, very quickly.
A hard money loan, depending on the loan amount, could be anywhere from $50 to $200 a day, in carrying costs, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one property.
Yeah.
So every week that goes by, that's less money that you're getting. Or if you have your lenders that has a stupid 3-month seasoning period, even though you've been done for 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does happen. That's all, Dylan.
So Cole Rudd Johnson, he's also been on the show. He's been really harping on this on his social media, like this sort of way to view this business. And I really like it. I think it's so correct, is that the perfect size of this business is like 1.5 to 2.5 million top line revenue. You have a team of like 3 to 5 people, right? And you have a way to do outbound marketing and inbound marketing. And you can expect to make like a 50, 60% profit margin on that. And you can get it to that. That's a size where you can kind of set it and forget it. You can have enough money that you bring in like an operator that's getting paid well, like well enough to be a part of like the entire process. And then you use that to basically like buy your freedom or pay your basic bills. And then if you want to be more of an entrepreneur, you go and you find something else that's more scalable.
Yeah.
Right. I fully believe that. Because I think the good thing about this business is it's a business where somebody with, I would say, like a relatively simple skill set can go and make like life-changing money without needing a team, without needing like some crazy education or anything else. It's a lot of work, but it is possible because it is every piece of marketing that you send out. There could be a deal in there that comes through that pays like what your old salary used to be.
Yeah.
You know, there's not very many businesses that do that.
One thing you said about Cincinnati being a good market, and this jogged my memory. I was talking with my close friend who's also in this business here, and we sat there and counted up like the legit operators that we know. There's 14, including us.
In Cincinnati?
In Cincinnati.
That's actually more than I would expect, honestly.
Yeah, it was for us too. When we wrote them all down, we're like, holy shit, this is actually a lot more competition than we thought. And then I legitimately closed one of them's on pace to do $6 million this year. And so they're the largest here. But I guess my point being is the prices come with the competition. And I never talked to a seller who hasn't already talked to somebody else.
Right. We're finding that more and more.
At this point, there's never a seller. They at least are familiar with the concept of a cash buyer.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, I'm going to call 3 more people or I have 2 more appointments like every time. It's just, that's a business though.
I will report back because I got sucked into doing a demo for a AI driving for dollars. And so I'm not optimistic about it, but it's like a free trial where they say they're going to take AI and scan like Google Earth and whatever, and they're going to find the rundown houses. Conceptually, this makes sense to me, but I'm going to learn if are they already on lists that I already have, right? Are they, that kind of stuff.
Here's how that would be actually sweet is you can get like a AI driving for dollars, but it's like a Waymo car that like goes out and just like actually takes pictures.
Yeah, that would be sweet. That would be dope.
What they do is they have like a little camera. They go and like just stick on a Waymo car without them knowing, and it just basically drives around and just takes pictures for them.
Yeah,
not a bad idea. Just Teslas too. Hack into the back of the end of the Teslas and steal all the photos.
There you go. That's a good idea. But so it's just important to have obviously perspective for that if your goals are to go bigger. But like I shouldn't turn people off from starting because frankly, if you haven't grown a business to $1 million or $2 million yet, you shouldn't be worried about growing it to 10 million.
Yeah.
You should focus on making your money first, getting, yourself some financial flexibility and a little bit of financial freedom. And then you can choose to kind of swing for the fences. And I think this business, like I said, is great for that. And also too, if you're somebody that has long-term wealth aspirations, there are very few businesses that allow you to make a pretty solid income while also having the ability to buy discounted assets.
Which is the goal. That's the goal right there.
Yeah.
When I was deciding to leave my W-2 and like what I was going to do, because I wasn't really whole set on doing wholesaling at that time, but it was like, I have this skill set. I kind of know what I'm doing at this point, and I can make just as much as I was as a pharmacist. But the whole purpose was to buy discounted deals. So you can do both in this business. What did Ryan Dossey's old saying was, buy the best, wholesale the rest, something like that.
That was his tagline.
Yeah.
It's true though. And I think going into this, to finish off what you were saying, Mike, is like, if you're just starting out or you were thinking about getting in, it's like, just plan to spend 4 or 5 years building a business. And if you don't think you can do it for 4 or 5 years, you're probably not going to build any business. So like, don't even try. But if you spend 4 to 5 years, you'll build a very solid business and you'll figure out the sweet spot for the amount of effort you want to put in for the pay. And you'll have access to all these discounted deals Dylan's talking about, which will help you build passive income. You'll hopefully build some additional wealth from the excess cash you don't need. If you're a smart business person, you're a little bit frugal with your accounts and save some money. And then you can use that money to do other things, whether that's start another business. Mike and I started lending that extra money out. I mean, there's lots of opportunity. And I think within that 4 to 5 year period, you'll find a very awesome place where you always have a way to make money and always have a way to get discounted deals, which is really what the goal should be. Like, if this is the business you're even looking at.
Yeah. I think the time component of that is so understated, right? Just like with any business, and people get impatient, especially with the FOMO sort of environment that we have now with social media and everything else. So like if I look back on sort of my journey when I left my W-2 job in 2018, I started doing real estate stuff shortly after that. I didn't really make any like actual money until the end of 2020, right? And so at that point, I mean, that was 3 years of trying to figure it out. And that was with no like mentorship or anything else. And that was also too when I would say the market and the industry was significantly easier than it is now because it was way less sophisticated, right? You didn't have as many ways to like learn how to do a lot of this stuff. There was less options for marketing, like going and finding like a cold calling company, like, or someone to do like lead gen for you was kind of not really a thing.
It's definitely harder.
Right? Yeah, it was definitely harder.
The biggest wholesaler back in like Cincinnati in 2018, 2019, he was basically the first one to figure it out like, oh, I can send mail and get people to sell me their houses. And it was simultaneously where we had 2 or 3 hedge funds that were buying a shit ton of stuff. The dude made millions and millions and millions of dollars and then just went off the face of the earth.
Yeah. So we were talked about that on our scale call on Tuesday. One of the old guys here, I say old guys, he's a young dude. I think he's actually younger than I am. But when he started his business in 2016, 2017 on the wholesale real estate, he's like, yeah, we would just like text people and they would text back and be like, sure. And they would just sell the property. And he's like, we were doing like 10 deals a month just off of like SMS.
It's pretty wild.
You know, and he did exactly like you said. He just made fist loads of money. And then he's like, cool. And now he like travels around with his young family in an RV and just like kind of reduce their expenses to nothing. And like, I got my nest egg. I'm just going to hang out now.
My thing.
But if you go back even further, you'll see even more of that. So like one of the big, he's like a home builder now in Spokane. I met him a number of years ago. We went to lunch and he was telling me that when he started trying to find deals in like the early 2000s in Seattle, Tacoma, he's like, yeah, it's like, we knew that if we needed to market to people, the internet wasn't really like a common way to do that. So we could only call or mail people. And he said that, you know, there was no mail houses or skip tracing. So he had kids that would like run around and like tag crappy houses. And then he had a bunch of, he said like retired ladies and like stay-at-home moms that had like good handwriting that would come into work every day and would just be handwriting letters. He had a freaking sweatshop.
I already know this guy killed it because no one else is probably doing it. Yeah. Like,
yes. Yeah, he crushed it. You're creative. You're so creative. Like you see something, you see an opportunity in a market, and then you build that business. And I think we like to joke about how easy it is, but that wasn't an easy thing to do back then because he had to come up with those ideas.
Well, if you're talking about like, scaling, that's even harder to scale, right? But he had also had 10x less the competition.
Yeah. Way fatter deals, way more deals.
Yeah.
I think the key with that is he was willing to do stuff that other people weren't.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, and I think that still exists now. And I think the difference is back then, the things that other people weren't were complex, right? I think that now the things that other people aren't willing to do, it's more around like being patient and consistent. Like they're afraid of doing the hard work, so they're trying to optimize everything. Back then, people were afraid to do the hard work because there was uncertainty around it. And you had to like figure it out. Because like so many different pieces of this business. So like the people that are making the most money, they have a great follow-up process, right? They're like working through their old leads they've been listening for a while and they have a consistent marketing process. Almost everybody that we talk to, whether it's like in scale or it's on the show or it's like in passing, whatever, where they get stuck is they have a small marketing budget and they're trying to spread it across way too many marketing channels because they're too afraid to commit to something or their follow-up process is trash, right? And then once a lead comes into the system and goes through like the we're friendly stage, it kind of just goes into the pit of despair of dead leads where it dies, right?
Then they'll stumble upon it 4 months later and it's sold to somebody else.
Totally, dude.
Yep.
One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know if you stole this from somebody, Dan, or you made this up on the spot. This is at the very first KeysCon that we did years ago. And you said, with how this business works, right? And, you know, we all kind of market the same people. Every lead that is old to you is a new lead to somebody else.
It's Dan Austin copyrighted.
That's a great quote. That's honestly a great quote.
I came up with it because it's true.
It is true. Yeah.
We're all marketing the same people. This is where people are like, well, how do I get 1 inch better, 1% better than other people? It's like, well, don't even worry about that yet. Don't worry about the fancy AI bullshit. Just go mail and call the same people.
I know.
Because we're all doing the same thing. And it's just about getting in front of the right people at the right time. That person's in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure for 6 months. Guess what? It's going to take time.
Way too many people focus 80% of their efforts on, I need to make sure my copy copy is 100% correct, right? Or something like that.
No, just send them a letter.
Yeah. And it just doesn't make a difference, you know?
I know.
It doesn't.
And they're so worried that like the little details are going to be what matters when 95% of the time it is persistence and timing, right? Honestly. So, and that's why this business is so hard to optimize though, because you can't schedule that out. Like you can't make that any better. You can't like force people to sell to you. You just have to be there. You have to be the one that is top of mind when they decide that today is the day they need to get their act together.
And you can't forecast what that person's revenue is worth, right? Like if you're Anderson Windows, they know exactly what a window is worth to them. So they know if we can get somebody to call, it's going to be on average worth this. Sometimes it's a $50,000 wholesale fee. Sometimes it's you lose $5,000 on a flip.
That's another piece, right? That's so hard is your lead indicators, your lead KPIs will be the same, your cost per lead, your cost per deal, but your actual revenue on that can vary an incredible amount. So, and like you'll always have an average, but sometimes you'll have a period where like you exceed the average in a very short window. Other times you'll have a period where you are way below the average in a very short window. So you can be going and getting your 5, 6, 7 deals a month like you're expecting, but all of those deals could be under $10,000 or all of those deals could be over $30,000 and you never know what it's going to be.
So why you have to have good cash flow management and don't spend all your money all at once because you don't know if the next 3 months are going to be those $5,000 deal months.
Yeah. I do also think that's one of the reasons that this industry kind of draws degenerates is because there's constantly like this slot machine effect. You know, you're pulling the wheel and you don't know if this time you're going to hit a jackpot or you're going to bust out.
It's a little gamble.
It is every time, you know.
Feels good. Feels good when you win. And when you lose, you're like, I can get it back.
I can double down.
Yeah, I'll just double down.
I'm just splitting tens, dude. Like we got to go and just go all out.
Splitting twos.
Splitting twos. Shit. But,
have you guys, I guess even when you're doing the national stuff, okay, if you do think about what's different marketing wise, the only thing I haven't seen people really do are like billboards, or like I even tried those door hangers from Ballpoint for a while. I got 0 deals from them. Granted, I would probably put out 500, but
yeah,
that's your problem. You need to put out 10,000.
Yeah, you know,
you didn't even do enough of like a sample size to. There's a Hormozy bit where he talks about that, where he's like, I went and put out things on people's windshield. And he's like, man, I put out like 500 of them. The guy's like, 500? He's like, I do 5,000 a day. Right. On that piece, that's what I would say. When it comes to like the billboard, and so we run radio ads, and what that does, that's not a good, I would say, lead generation technique. What it does is it starts to skew the odds on your targeted marketing to people to prefer you over your competition because you're more familiar. In my mind, that's more like politics, right? So if you go and you look at any election, the number one indicator of somebody winning an election is what is their name recognition, right? Presidential election kind of aside because everyone knows those names and it's always very like media heavy. But like if you're looking at local elections, it's like, do people know this person's name? Is it familiar? Even if they know 0 about their policy, they'll be like, oh, I know who this guy is. So they'll vote for him, right? Because they saw billboards. In my mind, this business, when it comes to how competitive it is, we're all marketing the same people. If they've seen your name on a billboard, they've heard you on a radio, they've seen you show up on, you know, an internet page and like the side panel, they're more likely to call you versus XYZ home buyer that just sent them a letter and has nothing else behind them.
Reinforces brand too. And I think it helps you on the monetization if you're trying to wholesale because other wholesalers see your stuff and they automatically are like, oh, they have a billboard. They're a real business.
Yeah.
Like, and so it makes it easier for you to sell deals.
Just legitimate.
And I think that's why it's a mistake. And this goes back to people kind of getting like bought into stuff or trying to skip the hard work. It's a mistake for like new people to be pursuing like SEO and PPC. And the problem is that they all go through the same freaking lead funnels of these marketing companies that are like, let me tell you why this is going to be better and way less work than doing direct mail. But the problem is if you have nothing backing your online marketing, it doesn't really like mean anything. It's going to be a really expensive form of marketing. The best place to be is where you've called these people, you've sent these people letters, they've seen a billboard of you, and then they see an internet ad of you, right? And so that basically reinforces your more targeted direct marketing that's brand heavy. You know, that's where you want to be, right? But that should be like in addition to all of the hard work marketing that people don't want to do.
Yeah, and that should come later. You know, 6 months or a year being in this business, right? You have somewhat of a track record. One other thing that we were bitching about, me and the same guy I referenced earlier, was there's a lot of people that come in though, and they're okay with a $5,000 wholesale fee because like they don't have overhead. That's just them, right? So like they're like $5,000, hell yeah. And so now they're their offer is 10 to 15K above what I can offer. And I've lost a lot of deals actually that way, which might just be part of the business, but it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Little ankle biters that come in and screw things. They disrupt the market for a little bit. Then they disappear because you can't run a business that way.
Some of it's just incompetence.
Exactly.
It is incompetence. Yeah. You can't run a business long-term that way. It just doesn't work.
Totally. Because here's the thing, think about it, right? They're making their $5,000 deal. If you go over a long enough time domain, their cost per deal is still going to hit the industry average.
Yeah, as they try to scale.
Which is about $3,000, $3,100 in an average market. Maybe getting into the high 2000s in certain markets if you're optimized, right? So realistically on that $5,000 deal they're happy with today, you go forward 6 months, they're really only making $2,000 a deal, but they're still working just as hard as you trying to get the, $20,000 deals, right? So they always wash out.
Then they quit.
Yeah, they quit. We've seen those guys forever. Unfortunately, they're part of the game.
Yeah, but they always keep coming back too. They're new ones.
They do.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah.
There's new ones. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's always one of those guys or two of those guys.
That is the challenge with any business. It's a low barrier to entry. Anyone can go and get a contract signed and then find a buyer and send them the contract.
Yeah.
And it's becoming simpler every day as there's more contract templates. There's more free gurus out there. There's YouTube videos. It'll continue to happen. But at the same time, what we should do is we need to make fake shiny objects for them to go and pursue instead.
Divert your competition.
Yeah, just divert your competition. Yeah. We're going to go straight psyops on it where we're going to create a whole brand.
It would not be hard to do.
It wouldn't.
I can already see the faces of some of the people here locally that I could just get to buy stupid things.
Well, it would be hard for us. We just got to go and get investor girl Brit to put on a swimsuit and do it for us. Then we'll be good.
The most recent real estate thing was slow flips. They're advertising slow. Have you guys heard of those?
Slow flips? Is that?
Yeah.
I briefly heard about this and it sounded the stupidest thing ever.
Is that called a rental property?
Essentially, Mike, is their whole strategy was you buy it, rent it, you place a tenant, and then you try to sell it on day 366. So you're saving 10% and you're not taxed on an income basis. You're taxed on a capital gains perspective.
Oh, the cap gains.
Who cares?
Yeah, but who cares, dude? Because if you're doing stupid shit like that, your actual taxable income bracket is probably pretty low. You're probably stupid. What are you in the 10% tax bracket, and now you're going to pay 10% capital gains? It doesn't make any sense.
You're joking about that, Dan. But honestly, I think that it's so easy to sell people on tax savings.
It is.
Look at the entire red side of the aisle, right? Everything they do is about here's how people are going to save on taxes. But the funny thing is a lot of it's targeted at people that don't make any money anyway.
Right.
No tax on
except
tips.
for Jeff Bezos and all the guys that moved to Florida.
Well, yeah, of course, but that's the other extreme, right? Where they're manipulating the system.
They're the ones that actually pay the taxes. But
I think where that comes from is if there's always been this sort of concept that it is easier to sell on fear than on gain. Yeah. Right. And so people have this fear of loss of having to pay taxes. And if you can tell them you won't have to pay that anymore, you won't have to lose as much money to taxes, people are always going to jump on that more frequently.
It's because also nobody can understand the tax code. And if you can, nobody really spends time to actually dive into it because fundamentally at the top level, you kind of look at it and you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal to pay the taxes on this situation. But you'll have a guy on the other side of the screen telling you I am going to help you save taxes. You should never pay taxes. You don't have to pay it. It's well, I mean, I might save $3,000 on taxes here, but it would just cost me $4,000 to get my money back. Right. The whole 1031 exchange kind of idea of it's sometimes it actually makes sense to. And so people overcomplicate it for a reason.
If you're deferring $100,000 tax liability, sure. If you're deferring $5,000 to $10,000, just pay the fucking taxes.
Right. And pay attention to your income. There's years, especially in this business, where you're going to have super high income. So you should actually think about if you're going to make certain moves, sell a property, don't do it that year. You know what I mean? Do it the following year and, look at, your taxable income doesn't always go up usually, especially as a business owner. Sometimes it's this way. And that's called tax planning and take advantage of those low years and those high years.
Yeah. But most people don't think that way because they have such a limiting belief around making money that they are constantly trying to save.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Just one story to round out this piece and then we'll call it. On the sub 2 group yesterday, they posted as an anonymous person, what I found hilarious. They were saying, I'm really considering pulling the $7,000 out of my 401k. And I want to know what my tax liability is. And does anyone have any idea about strategies I could use to reduce my tax liability and penalties for pulling my $7,000 out of my 401k?
It's going to be 40%. by the way. Like,
it's going to be significant, like in terms of like the amount that's there. And who cares, dude? It's like $3,000 you're going to be paying.
It's not going to get you anything, though.
It's not going to get you anything, dude. But he was like posting it as he was and anonymous, just so no one would go and hack him and steal his $7,000 from his Fidelity 401k.
Look, everyone's got to start somewhere. They just got to learn that he's the same one that's asking for Gator lending for his EMD. So.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah, $200 EMD. I need a Gator line of credit for all of my EMDs.
Well, that was fun.
So, anyways, guys, anything else before we wrap up? That was a good combo.
I just want to add this in there that 10x is easier than 2x along the lines of making sure that you are in the gain of the gap.
Ooh, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Ben Hardy. But any other taglines? What's your book going to be called, Dan?
I don't have a book yet, but I'll come back with another one.
Bro, you just turned 40. You're getting that midlife crisis thing, dude. You got to start thinking about
write a book.
What your legacy book is going to be like everyone else that's had a midlife crisis. And what's even better, you can just have ChatGPT write the book for you now.
I'm not midlife. I'm planning to live to 120. I'm 1/3 of the way.
1/3 of the way. Still like middle, right? You're in the middle quadrant, the middle third.
I'm not a car guy, so I can't buy my Ferrari. So yeah, I'll just write a book about my life story because it's so fascinating.
You'd likely be like a vegetable from 90 to 120 anyway. So like it's still like midlife. Yeah,
just might as well just let it go.
Yeah, right.
Just let go at 80.
Oh, dude, by that point they're just gonna like plug us into like the virtual assisted living home. Just like be cruising. They'll like take your old mind, put you in like your 35-year-old body, and just be like, here you go, have fun.
You could just live forever in a virtual environment.
And then it'll be like the Matrix. They'll just like generate power off of us. But if as far as you're concerned, you're a 35-year-old in a virtual world. Is that bad? I don't know. That's the philosophical question for everybody to answer.
Sounds lonely. If you know you're there, it sounds lonely.
Nah, but everyone else is there. It's like an online video game.
Okay. I guess I'm not an immersive video game guy, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Well, then you're going to miss out, Dan, because it would be pretty great. I can promise.
Do they have Pac-Man there?
Sure. Just for you. Just for you, Boomer. We'll add in Pac-Man. So anyways. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. You guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.
See y'all.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you want more from us, you can shoot us a follow on Instagram. I am at Mike_invest. Dan is at InvestorManDan. And Dylan is at Dylan_does_deals. Shoot us a follow and send us a DM to let us know what you think of the show.